Welcome to AFS After Dark. I am Barry Arruda, Northeast Regional Manager for Advanced Fuel Solutions. This is episode 2. It's Friday night. I said it last time, it's been a long week. You know what? They're all long weeks when you're on the grind, when you're watching World Cup games at midnight. Democratic Republic of Congo is happening. Portugal, terrible outing recently. Not a lot going on there. I say that because I'm Portuguese, and I've watched Ronaldo for a long time. He's been great. I think he's cashed, if you're asking me my opinion. And so, yeah, we've got a lot to cover in this episode. We've got a few events that have taken place. We've got a guest lined up, a great interview for you to come later, and even a quick snippet of an interview with another very important person that I saw up in Maine at Bar Harbor. So we're going to get into it. As far as what I'm drinking this evening, now we will talk about why this is in honor of my guest, but also it's probably my favorite beer of all time, and it's Miller Lite. You just can't do much better than Miller Lite. I hear you, right? I heard you say domestic trash. You know, I take great offense to that. Miller Lite is a time-honored American tradition. You can quote me on that. Some might say it's the king of beers, although that copyright infringement may cause some problems. But there's a reason people say it's Miller time.
We have the tools, we have the talent. It's Miller time.
And that's now. You know, Friday. You're getting after it with your friends. Maybe you're hanging out by the pool or on the patio. Maybe at a restaurant. You have it on draft. But either way, Miller Lite is a glorious addition to this evening. So, let's toast to me, toast to you. Let's have a good one. So let's start with an update on some news. Now, you may have heard me say last episode that an industry friend of mine was almost mauled by a black bear in Stowe, Vermont. Well, over the time since I've seen you last, there's been an update, and it's this. So this is a news story about this black bear breaking into an establishment and then sadly being shot to death by a police officer in Stowe, Vermont. Now, if you'd like to connect the dots with me, one could think, okay, Barry's friend saw a bear who was looming around a resort in Stowe, Vermont. A week or so later, a bear's breaking in looking for food in Stowe, Vermont and is killed. I am going to say, this is the same bear. Troublesome, troublesome bear. And sadly, you know, rest in peace. I don't know if he's leaving anyone behind, but it's possible. So with that out of the way, let me tell you about the Connecticut Energy Marketers Association golf tournament. Now, this was at TPC River Highlands, which by the time, you know, you're seeing this and we're getting together, that Travelers Championship, which they were setting up for, is going to be taking place. Now, it was a beautiful course. I haven't played golf in about a decade. Still, I could tell that this was a very nice course. I played with 3 other guys. They all knew what they were doing. I had no clue what I was doing. I can tell you that I had a couple of good drives, and I had a couple of good approach shots from the fairway-ish to the green area-ish. But the putting, the putting was abysmal. I had no business being on that green. Luckily, those tournaments are best ball. But the important part, afterward, there was a dinner. I got to meet up with a bunch of people I knew. I had a hot dog and a hamburger. And I'm not talking about some hot dog you get at the supermarket. I'm talking about a big, fat hot dog. But I ate it anyway, because that's just the type of guy that I am. I don't want to be impolite. But it was good. Everyone had a good time. The weather couldn't have been better. It was gorgeous. So kudos to all of those people that put that together. That's David, Nikki, Chris from SEMA, and all of their staff who organized this event. Very tight window to get into there at the River Highlands, TPC River Highlands golf course, given everything they were doing. It was like a beehive. There were people everywhere doing everything to get TV ready for CBS and Jim Nantz. We then had the Northern New England Energy Conference in Bar Harbor, Maine. This is a conference that's put on by the Maine Energy Marketers Association and the Energy Marketers Association of New Hampshire. So big thanks to them for hosting all of us, over 200 people, new faces, customers, great food. If you've never been to Bar Harbor, get up there for friends, family, work if you can do it, hike Acadia, eat, see the ocean, and enjoy yourself. The conference was super. Yes, it rained an entire day while we were there, but this group managed to somehow push through, even though golf was canceled, and still find a way to have a good time. And while I was up there, I was lucky enough to sit down with the president of Nephi, Mr. Jim Collura, ask him what's going on in DC, what's happening with Nephi, and get some very high-level information. So I'm going to share that interview with you now, right after these messages from our sponsor. And yeah, you know who it is. Whether you're hauling a farm truck held together by baling wire and optimism, or a 6-inch lifted diesel with more lights than a football stadium, Advanced Fuel Solutions has got you covered. Our additives aren't a quick fix. They're proven solutions designed for modern diesel engines. By cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system, we help you extend filter life by up to 25,000 miles, reducing maintenance costs and keeping your trucks on the road where they belong. Visit yourfuelsolution.com to learn more. I am with Jim Collura, who is the president of Nephi, and we are here in beautiful Bar Harbor, where it is raining like cats and dogs. Jim has been kind enough to give us a few minutes of his time today. And I was recently at the Nephi meeting in Springfield with Jim. Everyone did a great job. Ted Noonan is exiting. Steve Walsh is entering as the chairperson. And so I had some questions about Nephi that I wanted to run by Jim. Jim, thank you for joining me. So let's take a big picture look at Nephi. The big question is membership. There's advocacy. There's a lot of different things going on. In the interest of recruiting, what are some of the best reasons to join Nephi now, given what we see in the political climate currently?
Yeah. Well, first let me say Nephi is celebrating our 85th year next year.
Congrats.
It's a long-standing, advocated for this industry for a very long time. And I've been with the organization for 20 years now, including 2 years as president. And it's a privilege to serve the organization, our members in the broader industry. That said, so Nephi has historically been a New England association. 5 years ago, my predecessor expanded us to a national footprint. And we are slowly but surely growing the organization outside our conventional backyard in New England and in the broader Northeast, which is great. Nephi represents a delivered fuels industry and other home comfort businesses, and champions the industry in Washington, D.C., and in support of our regional affiliates, state and local level, in the Northeast especially. And it's a real privilege to serve those businesses as mentioned. So why join Nephi? I mean, so first of all, I will say we're not a federation, so you aren't automatically a member by joining your state associations, whether it's our Heating Oil Propane Association. You have to join Nephi directly if you want to be a member. There are other organizations like NPGA and HEMA, Energy Marketers of America. You can become members by joining their affiliated states. Nephi is direct to member. So the dues come from retail businesses and associates like yourself who pay dues directly to the association. And when you join, you not only get access to our community, our family of businesses, but also you get access to a portfolio of member benefits that include some free and some a la carte additional pay-for services, some of which are discounted for members. And they range from a drug and alcohol testing program, employee assistance program, insurance, and other programs. We also offer education programs and events like our biannual heat show, which is going to be next summer in 2027 in August in Boston. So there's a large range of member benefits. The one that we're most well known for, as you know, is advocacy or lobbying work we do in the industry.
Right. And that's a 24/7 job. Doesn't matter if it's the busy season or not. It's DC's always doing what DC does, and you need to be there to sort of make sure you're watching everything, nothing's slipping by you guys, and so you do a great job. So if someone's thinking about joining Nephi, I would certainly encourage them to not only investigate the website, read about what they do, read what Jim and his staff do, but also talk to your colleagues in the industry and learn about their experience, because there may be specific questions that are relative to your business that would be, maybe best answered by a friend or a colleague that you already know and trust, but certainly Jim and his staff are always available. So that being said, you mentioned lobbying.
Yeah.
So can you give us an example of something that you've been recently working on in that space that has been a challenge for you and then has rendered into, say, a success?
Yeah, this is really also um, telling of why it's so imperative that our industry have voices at all levels of government, right? At state and local, but also federal as well. You need to have someone at the table defending your industry. As my predecessor Sean Coda used to say, "If you're not at the table, you're on the menu." He still always said,
Yeah, right.
which is true. I mean, you have to be there to tell your story. If you don't, someone else is going to do it for you. And this is illustrative of that example. So the there was a bill called the Inflation Reduction Act, which Democrats passed, probably poorly named. Democrat passed in the last Congress under the Biden administration that created a $9 billion pool of money for two rebate programs administered by states, one for energy efficiency, one for electrification. The goal was really to try to push homes towards electric heat pumps, electric water heaters, and electric stoves, and so on. And when the previous administration rolled it out, they heavily encouraged states to require or strongly encourage contractors to remove the existing systems. Take out the oil or liquid fuel or gas-fired appliance completely, heating system completely, and replace it with a whole home electric heat pump system, electric stoves, electric dryers, and so on. And we were obviously very concerned about this policy, and it was at a time where we had very little influence on that administration and its efforts. So the policy was enacted. The program started rolling out in the states. Then comes along the new Trump administration, which has very different priorities.
Of course, yeah.
Within days of the president being inaugurated, Nephi sent a letter with some coalition partners in the utility sector, Propane Gas Association, calling for these rules to be rolled back and for new rules to be put in place that tell states it's a bad idea to do that. No, for many reasons, affordability, not the least of which energy efficiency, affordability, and reliability, and energy security. So we sent this letter to the administration. We had a follow-up conversation with senior administration officials last summer, and ultimately, just this past month, they issued new guidance which tells states this $9 billion pool of money, as you roll these programs out, you cannot use this money to force consumers to switch from liquid and gas systems to heat pumps. You can't force them to remove their legacy systems. And another caveat, if you're going to install heat pumps, you have to first prioritize weatherization. So you have to first focus on the envelope of the home, the insulation, duct sealing, etc., before you replace the HVAC system in the house, which is a smart policy, in my opinion. So that's a recent win that we had a direct hand in, and it's an important one. Energy choice is the centerpiece of our government affairs agenda. Since coming on as president, I've made sure that we've kept that focus. It's not our only focus. We have a very broad agenda that includes a number of other issues, but energy choice remains centered to that. There's still a lot of work to do in that area, but we've certainly made a lot of progress. And you alluded to earlier, it seems like there's a change in the political winds.
Certainly.
And things seem to be moving solidly in the favor of consumer choice, energy affordability. And I think that will continue to be the case for years to come. So I think we'll continue to see more wins in this area.
Okay. And I know what you're thinking. You're hearing, oh, they want to remove the legacy system and put in, electrify everything into a home. That doesn't seem like common sense, because if you're in New England or any state that gets cold, if the power goes out, you no longer have heat. To that point, if it is so common sense, you would think, hey, we can just let them know that doesn't make sense and it would change. But it requires a tremendous amount of effort on your part, your staff's part, to say, hey, can I get your eyes to look at this and maybe think about it a little bit? And that's really where Nephi comes in. You could certainly pick up the phone and call your congressman or woman, and I'm sure they would hear that concern, but it requires the lobbying, constant attention, and oversight to get these things done.
Yeah. Lobbying has a bad rap.
It has a
stigma attached to it, yeah. But lobbying is protected under the First Amendment. Our country started on the idea, was really founded upon the idea of being able to redress grievances to the people who make policies that affect your livelihood. That's what started our country.
Yeah.
But not everybody's able to do that. Especially in industry like ours, with thousands of businesses across the country who spend their day to day, 7 days a week, especially in the winter, serving their customers. They can't come to Washington and advocate for the businesses. Right. I will say that's not entirely true. Some of them come to lobby day. They'll come for 1 day a year, twice a year, and they'll come to Washington or go to the state houses and advocate for their businesses. But they can't be there every day. And they certainly can't read every policy that comes out, every piece of legislation, every regulation. You need someone who's going to be your eyes and ears, right? And that's going to advocate for you when you can't. So, as an association, that's what we do, right? And on a day-to-day basis, in and out. And there's always something happening, even when you've got a favorable political environment like we have in D.C. Somebody had said, no, right after Trump was elected, boy, you're going to have so little to do because he's going to be so good for our industry. And that's not entirely true. There have been some things like LIHEAP. He's advocated for repealing that. We have been an opponent of repealing the program and advocated for its continuation and full funding. Had great success there, but it's still a fight. He still wants to get rid of the LIHEAP program.
Yeah.
And the tariffs have been somewhat controversial. But other than those couple of exceptions, it's true. The environment is great, but you still need to be there to promote for your industry. Like with the rebate program issue, we went into the administration, we handheld the staff through where our concerns were with the previous guidance. And now we're going to go back to the administration as states are probably going to push back and maybe even initiate a lawsuit, help them through, okay, what are the next steps and how do we properly combat the pushback we're receiving? So it's a constant work that needs to be done.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned all of that because it's highlighting what's important, what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And that brings me sort of to my next question. So when we were in Springfield recently for the NEFI annual meeting, I was paying very close attention to the slides that you were putting forth about the things we're talking about, but at a much broader scale. And one of the things I noticed is that there was a figure that came up that highlighted 39% of members in NEFI have been contributing. So that's 138 members out of a possible 354. That number obviously could be larger, should be larger. We hope it will get larger. What do you think the reason is that we have a lower number than we would like? Is it an economic hardship? Is it lack of awareness? How can we motivate NEFI's members to, and let's call it what it is, give more to the cause so that you can continue to do what is so vitally important every day in DC?
Yeah, good question. So our base source of revenue is our dues. We try to keep our dues as low as possible. It's really like, we look at it like the entry fee to be part of the NEFI annually. It's like the club fee, right? We try to keep it as low as possible and provide businesses based on the ability to contribute another avenue to support us, specifically our advocacy work, and that's our advocacy fund. Also, I'll mention this year, as of this year, we are no longer, for accounting reasons, we've changed our operating and accounting procedures. So not a single dollar of dues supports lobbying.
Right.
So that means all of our dues are now 100% tax deductible for the first time ever. And that also really reinforces the need to contribute to the advocacy fund because that's the money that supports that work.
Right.
So to your point, not everyone's doing that. And I don't know what the reasons are. Every business is probably different. Maybe there are some instances of hardship.
Sure.
We do have a tiered-based contribution matrix. So if you have a smaller business with fewer gallons a year, our suggested contribution is lower, and companies that are much larger, maybe more successful, recommended contribution is bigger. So there is like a recognition that not every business is able to give the same amount. That might be some of the reason here. And certainly we've had years where we've asked for contributions for our advocacy fund, again, which are completely voluntary. And they've said it's been a tough winter and it's not, something we can't support you this year. I'm not sure this winter is
this winter was much better.
Yeah. Exactly.
But there is an ebb and flow to it.
There's an ebb and flow. But I think honestly, the biggest reason is two things. I think first of all, there may be an assumption that dues, by being a member, you're supporting that work. And I guess there's something to be said about that generally advocacy is not just lobbying. That is certainly the case. But our team in Washington who does this work, that is funded directly by the advocacy fund. So that support is imperative. And I think some companies may just simply not understand the value of what we do. Or I think there is maybe a lack of understanding of what our priorities are.
Right.
And I think that once we communicate that, an energy choice regulatory relief, sensible tax policies, cleaner fuels policies, support the industry's long-term viability. All of these things, we don't focus on any one at the expense of the others. They're all important.
Sure.
And we focus on those in the environment where that opportunity, right now, energy choice is one of those, as I used as an example.
Right.
We focus on those policies that we think we can advance at that moment. We're a nonpartisan organization. We work with anyone that will work with us. That includes Democrats and Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the Republican side being a little bit more pro-business and pro-energy is a little easier to work with. But when Democrats are in charge, we do our best to not only defend the industry, but work proactively where we can to accomplish some meaningful policies that, or at least try to tone down the harmful ones as far as we can. We may not always be able to kill those policies, but integrating some kind of reforms to minimize the harm. And then when we have a better environment in the future, like we do now, going back and fixing them. Those rebates are a good example of that kind of work.
Yeah, and I mean, DeFi's been around, obviously, you said, for quite a long time. 80 years, you said?
85
next year. So there have been Democratic presidents, Democratic regimes, if you will, and NEFI has lasted throughout those ebbs and flows and the roller coaster that is politics in D.C.
Yeah.
But so, Jim, before I let you go, I did a deep dive on your LinkedIn, and I noticed that you had listed way back 25 years ago that you worked at the Discovery Channel store.
Yeah, Discovery Channel, yeah.
So thinking back on your days in the Discovery Channel store,
yeah,
can you bring any correlation between what you did there with the educational stuff and what you do today as the president of NEFI?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, upon graduating, I couldn't find a job right away.
Right.
And I had worked at the Discovery Channel store my senior year of college, and that got an opportunity to work as a manager, assistant manager of the store the summer after I graduated, and then into the holiday season, and then got a phone call while working at the Discovery Channel store. Got a phone call from a college professor in New Hampshire, St. Anselm College, who was friends with Senator Gregg, who's a Republican senator from New Hampshire at the time, who had a job opening in his D.C. office and was wondering if I be willing to apply. Of course, I said absolutely. And then I flew to D.C. and interviewed and had the job and started work within 2 weeks.
Wow.
Got the job off.
That's a great phone call to get.
It is. It was very exciting and might change my life.
Yeah, absolutely. It did. It set you on the path that you're on today.
So if there's one thing I can say I learned from that store, from working in a retail store at a mall, I understand what, how hard retail business is, how hard it is to run a retail business. And it's not just the Discovery store. I've learned that lesson. My parents owned a flower shop, small business, for 15 years. And it was hard. It was a tough, I saw how much they work, long hours, especially during the holidays, sometimes putting payroll before a family.
Yeah.
And some years telling us kids, my sisters and I, this year, maybe we kind of less presents for Christmas this year, because it was just a tough year, and they wanted to make sure they made their employees whole first, and made a lot of sacrifices. So I understand how hard it is to run a small business, how hard the retail business is. And I kind of came to this job with that appreciation. It's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about working for this industry, as I understand it's not always easy. The businesses that we serve really care about not only their employees, but their communities, the families they serve. And that's a value my parents instilled in me. And having worked retail and the management level, especially, it's hard.
That is a tough gig.
So I can appreciate how difficult sometimes our members have it. And like you said, NEFI we're a services-oriented organization. Whether they're a member or not a member, we're here to help. So if there's anything that your viewers need from us, me and my team are here to help.
I will get the website on screen. We will promote it there. And Jim, I know you're busy. I can't thank you enough for your time. It's always great to talk to you. I always learn something. And thank you for the good work that you do down in D.C. Keep it up. And Jim is going to be somewhere near you soon. So if you see him, get involved. Ask him how to join, what to do. He'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah,
thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
Yes, all right. It's always good to talk to you.
I'll talk to you. So I can't thank Jim enough for his time. Really good stuff. If you haven't, join NEFI. It's advocacy. It's good stuff. They will work very hard on your behalf. Jim and his staff are absolute beasts. Not unlike that Stowe bear who is no longer with us. Scary animals. I started to think about animal stories, scary animal stories. Have I ever had one? And I've never gone toe to toe with a bobcat or been, run off by a rhinoceros or an elephant or something. But I thought about it, and I did have one quick story that I'll tell you. So my family is very good friends with a very famous retired Red Sox player. I won't tell you his name, but it's Carl Yastrzemski. And I was visiting, this would have been probably 15 years ago, and he has a bunch of horses. So one of his horses is named Baby Jack, and Baby Jack is actually the largest, or was the largest horse that Yaz had. Now, I was out in and around the paddocks kind of screwing around, and for whatever reason thought it was a good idea to sort of get in the paddock with this animal who could easily have trampled me. Now, what almost happened was that I was trampled, but what really happened is that the horse did charge me. If you have never heard a horse, particularly a large horse, run at full speed on the earth near you, it sounds like oncoming thunder. It's that intense, which in my own brain, I always think about, if you were in the Civil War and the cavalry was coming over the hill and there were, 8,000 guys on horses, what that would have sounded like. But that's a different thought. That's for my own private time. But what did I do? I jumped out of the paddock and into a compost heap. So I did escape death. Also interesting about that same day is that because he lives on a very old piece of property, at the time I thought I was going to get into metal detecting. And so I asked him if I could metal detect some of the trails and areas in his back area. He said, sure. And I borrowed his beehive hat because there were mosquitoes out there. And I was doing it for about 15 minutes, digging in the dirt with my hands, when I saw his visage come over this ridge. And I said, hey, I think this would be a great spot to dig. And I was really enthusiastic. And he said, and I quote, and he yelled it, I probably shouldn't say that. He said, you're soft. Soft is what he said. Okay, enough about that. Let's get to our guest. You've waited long enough. I mentioned earlier that I'm drinking Miller Lite. It's my favorite beer. And this is a blue-collar, hard-working beer. Does the job. Maybe it's not always pretty, but he's out in the field doing what it needs to do. And I picked this beer because my guest is similar to that. Hard-working, blue-collar guy, doing the job, and if I may say, doing it the right way. My guest this evening is the president and owner of Davis Oil in Keene, New Hampshire, serving Cheshire County, which is southwestern New Hampshire. And he is also the newly appointed chairperson of Nephi. My guest this evening, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Steve Walsh. I will bring him up. Steve, good evening and happy Friday to you, my friend. How are you doing?
Good evening, Barry. I am good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad we could have you on. Thank you so much for giving some of your time. I know, as I just mentioned, you're the newly appointed gentleman, chairperson at Nephi, so I know you're getting busier during this off season and for the next couple of years. Now, I see that you are located in your office. Is that correct?
I am in the office, yes. I stopped here because I am luckily like about an eighth of a mile from home.
Oh, that's fantastic. So no commute, yes. Which is really what everyone's looking for. It's Friday night. I'm having a drink. I noticed you have the red Solo Cup, very classic, keeping it sort of shady. What are you dining on this evening when it comes to the liquids?
I have a Captain Morgan's and Diet Sam's Club Cola.
Okay, Captain and Cola. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, that'll get the job done faster than the Miller Lite, but we can't go down that road because I just spoke so highly of that beer. So we'll go with that. So, well, Steve, I'm obviously being the president and the owner of Davis Oil. So how did Davis Oil come to be? Obviously, there's a lot of family businesses, legacy in this industry. How long have you been there? How long have you had boots on the ground working? And how did that whole story of Davis Oil come to start?
So I will say, first of all, I watched your first episode with Matt Coder, and much of this would be almost the same. I mean, literally, we are 100 years old this year, and it started with my grandfather with a wood business, then it went to coal, and then shortly after coal, it diversified into oil, and it's kind of evolved since. But yes, and I'm third generation now.
And so you've been, since basically coming up as a young man, you've been in this industry You didn't leave, come back. It's been basically energy since day one for you.
Yes, I did leave for about 18 years, and I went on my own and did my own plumbing and heating business. And then in 2017, I came back and rejoined my sister just after my mom passed away. And I will have to say we kind of really worked to rejuvenate the business. It's good. It feels good, and I believe we're doing the right things.
Yes, I believe you are. You do run a heck of a business. It's part of the reason I wanted to have you on. And we'll get into sort of what makes you different than a lot of folks up your way. So you mentioned third generation. You take over, and whether it was during the time that you were on your own, or since you've come back to Davis, since the turn of the century, so we'll call it 25 years ago, and that's a long time. As a retailer, what sort of changes stick out in your mind, that things that were challenges for you that may scream louder than others? Because it seems like, and I'll put a button on this, it seems like every couple of years there's a new threat to this industry or a change that's overhauling. Are there things that stick out that you can recall going through?
I would say, Barry, honestly, like the scare one that really never came to be, and maybe it's because of the protocols that we took and put in place, was I would make it similar to the scare we had for Y2K. Remember, we may lose power. We all should get a generator, all that. Well, when the sulfur content changed in 2017 and 18, we were all, and rightfully so, took the right steps to mitigate problems. But that was a scare for us, meaning what was going to happen to the fuel lines that were still buried in concrete, and what was going to happen to the inside of fuel tanks. But being prepared, I think, mitigated that, and it was like the Y2K, and the problems never came to be. So that would be one. And then, of course, the electrification push by policymakers really is the biggest battle.
And that's ongoing. The sulfur change, I was around for that, and I remember doing a lot of education with dealers who were thinking, how worried do we need to be about this, and what steps can we take to sort of mitigate any outcomes that may be bad? So I was making the rounds, doing those things in office boardrooms and OESP meetings and things like that. So that's a great couple answers. I'm sure there'll be something else that comes in the future that's a different monster, but we'll address those things when we get to them. So you mentioned that you hope that you're doing pretty good up there, and I know a large focus for you and Davis Oil, and you and I work pretty closely together. I see you pretty often. As you began to market bioheat and biodiesel blends up in your market, long before a lot of people in New Hampshire have done that, and there's a reason that maybe they haven't done it, and we can go and talk at length about what that is, but it's really that New Hampshire's not Vermont, it's not Connecticut or Rhode Island, so the energy choice thing there is slower to move, et cetera, et cetera. But what pushed you to kind of take a first step and then a second step and kind of venture into marketing bioheat, biodiesel blends to the market that you serve and to the homeowners that are maybe asking a lot more questions than maybe some of your dealer colleagues that aren't doing this?
I gotta say, just research is the number one reason, is learning about it and then really digesting it and realizing that it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And at least, we don't have to do this, but you know what? There's people that want it, mm-hmm. and it's the right thing to at least give them a choice.
Correct.
And we feel that it's, even though at times, that it can be, it's hard for us to load one truck and to nail it as to how much bio heat plus we need to put onto our regular fuel oil. But we've gotten used to it now.
Mm-hmm.
We've got it down pat pretty good. And I just think we're in a very eco-minded town, I guess would be the most mm-hmm. polite way to put it. And, the local government here, there's a big push for, as they would say, green and clean. And, mm-hmm. and we kind of put them on notice with this. It's like, no, you're not going to say that we can't compete, because we can.
Right.
And we've got some government officials that buy our product from us because it's, you get a 20% renewable in there, and mm-hmm. they like it.
Yeah.
So, and I honestly, I really mean this from from the bottom of my heart. I just think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's a learning curve, right? I mean, you mentioned that you had to kind of learn some new steps to bring this to market. That's just the evolution of doing anything, right? I mean, things are going to change all around us forever and ever until we're gone. And one of the things that I like about what you're doing is that you are positioning yourself in a way that when things may change, and you and I have talked a lot offline about this in New Hampshire, if things change or the winds shift, you are in a great position to be a leader in the area where you're saying, we have done this for X years. And now your employees are understanding it. Your technicians that are coming in are working in an environment where there's new thoughts, new conversations that are happening. And I know, I mean, you've even gone so far as to brand your fuel with Heat Guard and Eco Guard and to kind of really differentiate yourself from your competition. So I applaud you for that because, again, no one was forcing your hand to do it. There's no mandate in New Hampshire. I serve all of New England for my company, and I see the guys that do it. I see other guys that do it maybe because they have to. Some guys do it because they're, whatever. But when I hear you say I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, it inspires me, inspires the people that I work with because it's a great story. We talked about 3 generations. Well, 4 generations, 5 generations, people will be talking about what you kind of kicked into gear. Not to ramble forever, but I think you hear what I'm saying. So, so good on you. So, when we discuss bioheat, so people typically go right to emissions. Is there an advantage of bioheat or biodiesel blends that you feel gets overlooked?
I do, and I know I've sent you information. Like every March, we have a home show in Keene, and it's well attended and it's boostful, and we always really push BioHeat Plus. I mean, we hang the banner up, and then we do a raffle for, usually it's 500 gallons, and sometimes it's the better part of heating somebody's home for the year.
Okay.
And we market it, and we'll do 2 drawings of 500 gallons of BioHeat Plus. And as people walk by the booth, they will look at it and we'll say, would you like to enter? And they'll say, well, no, we don't use that. We use oil to heat our home. It's like, so I think that's the biggest trouble is people don't know what it is.
Right.
Honestly, and I mean, we continue to. We've done radio campaigns and the whole nine. I'm not whining. I know you know that, but people really don't understand that when you say BioHeat Plus, that's kind of why we rebranded that name to EcoGuard, because it raises. It's like, okay, what is that? It's alongside your Heat Guard, which is heating oil.
Right.
Now we have the chance for the conversation, not just at the home show, but actually with somebody that's looking at our website saying, what's the difference between the two?
Right.
So I think the biggest misconception or the biggest thing that people don't know is it's a drop-in solution for them or a drop-in alternative. I don't want to say solution, I guess, but it's a drop-in alternative and they just don't know what it is.
Yeah. And that all comes, I mean, there's going to be continuing education. I mean, I know the folks in that industry, producers, et cetera, marketers, of course, but yeah, it's turning a key. You don't need to all this new equipment, et cetera. It works with your existing equipment. Obviously, Beckett is doing big things, and Carlin, and I'm sure Riello, if they haven't already, and I don't quote me on that, but that's a great answer because continuing consumer education is something we need to be doing, and this is sort of part of it here, this small little corner of the internet that I occupy with my beer. So. All right. Well, I appreciate that answer. That's illuminating. So speaking of homeowners, if you could sit down with every homeowner in New Hampshire, for 5 minutes or so, what do you think the biggest misconception is that you'd want to correct about home heating oil or diesel fuel that we use? I bet I can guess your answer, but I'm going to let you, take care of that. So
we've had an influx in our area of people moving here from California, Colorado, everywhere. And when they call here, the house has oil heat, and they literally freak out. and I mean this. It's like first of all, they don't know how to use it.
Wow.
And then they immediately go to it's dirty.
Yeah.
And I usually field those calls. I want those calls because I will ask them, well, first of all, you don't need to do anything. Just turn your thermostat up or down and let us know once a year that you'd like it serviced, and you don't need to do anything. But they will say, well, it's dirty.
Right.
And I'll say, compared to what?
Yeah.
And then they have to think for a minute. And I obviously don't do it in a sarcastic way. I'll just say, look, I understand you think it's dirty, but can you tell me compared to what? And I think they go back to maybe seeing the dirty ducks on the shore or something after
The
school.
Valdez.
But it's like, beyond that, it's like, no, it is like 90% cleaner than it was in the 70s. It's actually cleaner than what you believe. It is easy, and you have freedom. When I say you have freedom, you can buy your fuel from anyone you want. You're not pigeonholed to one dealer. They don't own your tank. You have freedom, and the BTU value per dollar, you cannot beat it. And it's clean. I really try to stress that it's not the fuel oil of the 70s.
Right.
And literally, I'm guilty for not cleaning my own boiler for 3 or 4 years. And it still can go. So it has changed, and I let them know that in a nice way. It's not what you're thinking. It really isn't. And there's proof of that. I mean, I know that I've sent you pictures before to bore you to no end of something with 2,000 or 3,000 gallons that have gone through it, and they're still pink or white, and then, just a little bit of white ash in the unit. So we've got pictures here, and if the customer actually comes here, it's like, just hear us out for a minute.
Yeah.
So I would say that's the biggest thing, is to really try to convince them that no, it's not dirty.
Right. And they're sort of trigger happy. You hear oil, you think, okay, like you said, the oil covered ducks, and they're sort of trained, or they've grown up thinking this thing that they don't have an explanation really for. And then once you sort of give them, again, consumer education, just a little tidbit, you explain like you did so eloquently there, they go, oh, all right, well, if I don't need to change anything, and we can stay warm and we can cook our food, put me on automatic delivery, and then everyone in the Davis Oil office gives each other a high five, and we're all in good spirits.
Well, and even if they're on the fence of it after that spiel, it's like, no, well, now we have this other product called EcoGuard,
right?
That's got a 20% renewable in there, and sometimes it makes them feel good, puts them right over the edge, and they're happy.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. So that you've got multiple layers there of what you're able to do when it comes to products offered and education that you're providing as well. So, so let's talk about the future of home heating oil and of home heating in general, and liquid fuel out of a hose. So a lot of the attention, we talked briefly or mentioned it earlier about electrification. So a lot of the focus goes to electrification. Do you see that as and you kind of alluded to this earlier, but do you see that as the biggest challenge to this industry currently? And that being said, are there bigger issues that we're not paying attention to because maybe we're so hyper-focused on that one thing?
I don't think so. I would like to see more people building with it from new. And I actually believe, I believe in cycles, and this may change, meaning it may come back again. I truly believe the Kevin Beckett's, the people at Carlin, the Roger Marins, they are like, I can't even explain how I feel about those people. They are coming up with new things and ways to keep battling back against the people that are trying to, put a halt to us, to make them cleaner, easier to install, no chimney. I just think that there's opportunities that are there, and that we're going to capitalize on it, and just tremendous work by those people that I think we're going to be okay. And that, and the work that obviously your business is doing along with Nora and Clean Fuels Alliance, I actually really do feel good about the industry. I do.
Fantastic. Yeah, so there's an optimism there. And it's like the old saying, it takes a village. And you mentioned companies like my own that support retailers, work with Nora, the Nora people themselves, the manufacturers, the retailers, the state association people, the lobbyists. There really are so many different people that are now in league with each other, moving toward the future where we have to go. And what I love about, what my boss says, liquid fuel out of a hose, or liquid energy out of a hose, when we're talking about things like biodiesel blends and bioheat, there's an opportunity here to gain back some market share, right? Because these new fuels are going to fall in line with the politicians that are out there now, those that may be coming. And so, again, I applaud you for positioning yourself and your employees and your staff in a way where you're a bit more safely insulated from quick changes in the future. If politics change in New Hampshire, do dominoes fall faster? And I've talked about that on the previous episode with Matt. And so, yeah, I think the electrification thing is very big right now. But if these groups of people keep working the way that we're working, it's like what they say, like 2 heads are better than one. Well, now we've got thousands and thousands of heads thinking, how do we do this? And what can we use our expertise how can we use our expertise to get ahead?
I think last winter, Barry, really was a good wake up for a lot of people that already have heat pumps, electric heat, which thankfully most of them still had their legacy systems in place.
Mm-hmm.
And we got calls. They put themselves on will call because they had, heat pumps put in, but they soon realized that A, they're not comfortable, and B, it's costing them a fortune to run.
Yep.
And why I'm saying that now is because we install heat pumps, we do it, but this year, along with all the, the incentives that are out there, and really the price of fuel being escalated right now, we're not getting inundated with calls as to they want to switch heating systems. They don't want to switch fuels. And to me, that's a good sign. Maybe they're seeing and maybe they're educating themselves that this electrification push may not really be all it's cracked up to be. So,
right.
And I don't mean it has its place. And I think that if you're not putting them in now and you're probably missing out because shoulder season heating and air conditioning, but not the meat and potatoes of the heating season. So I think I honestly think that maybe it's people are starting to realize that it's not the end all be all.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a place for everything. Heat pumps, like you said, have a spot in October, probably great. Right. Middle of January, especially, and we talked to Jim Collura, obviously, about fuel choice. If you're removing a legacy system and you're relying on heat pumps, even the best ones made ever, if the power goes out in January, what do you do? It's just common sense. You can't pull a backup system of any kind of, what would you do if you pulled a backup system out of a hospital? Imagine a hospital that's running on electricity without a diesel generator. I mean, it doesn't compute with me, but I don't work in Washington, so it's like I don't know what's going on down there sometimes. But yeah, so electrification is the big shark that we've got to be aware of, and we got to continue to beat back. So we talked about Jim Collura. We spoke with Jim Collura earlier, and as you step into your role as chairperson of NEFI, and this is sort of a bigger question, so I mean, you don't need to. Yeah, I don't need the your full 2-year plan, but as you go into that role, what do you hope to accomplish during your time there that you think that you'd like to focus on and that you'd like to work towards with your colleagues on that team?
First and foremost, I think we really want to just take a look at ourselves and make sure that we're not missing out on reaching other entities that kind of the people that started out as fuel oil that they've diversified into. What else fits, and is our branding accurate, or do we need a change, or does maybe our marketing strategy to get new members need to change?
Yep.
I don't know the answer to these yet, but we will form, and we want to form a committee to really study that, because I know for a fact that there's a lot of dealers in the Pennsylvania area that still think NEFI stands for New England. They may, New England something or other. Maybe they still think it's New England Fuel Institute. I don't know, but we just need to really look at that. I want to grow membership.
Yep.
If we can grow membership, then we can grow advocacy money, which is really, Jim is phenomenal at that, and our team for advocacy is absolutely phenomenal.
Yep.
And I think we really want the opportunity to grow membership, and hopefully people will see the benefits that are there at NEFI, and also the advocacy that's on their behalf. So really look at our branding and see how we're doing marketing.
Yeah, and I think honestly, if your time there, say over 2 years, if you were focused on growth and membership and you were bringing in additional members and increasing the funds as a result of that direct, recruitment, that would be a wildly successful term as chairperson. I think it's an admirable, attainable thing. In fact, and I know that we're recording this episode today and you haven't seen Jim's interview yet, but that was one of the things that I wanted to ask him about was during the Nephi meeting, and I know you saw the figure, I think it was something like 139 of 354 members are contributing. I want to say that the figure was 39%, and I asked Jim about it because where can we be better in that way? How can we drive the contributions out of existing members and also bring on new members? So I don't want to, make it sound like it's an easy thing, because if I had the answer, I would have given it to Jim, and I'd certainly give it to you now. So that will be something to focus on. I think it's a really good spot to put the brain trust and the focus.
Right. And I don't think it needs to be really complicated. I think we could just take a look, see where we need to focus on. Is it just remarket? Do we just need to do better job marketing and following up?
Yeah.
Or do we need more of a change? I don't know, but that's
I think when you
there's some. What's that? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off, Steve, but I'm actually kind of infamous for that. I think when you get under the hood and you start to look around and you start to branch out and get to know these people a bit more and asking questions of one another and having these committee meetings, the answer is going to become evident as to what perhaps needs more attention. So I think that you're going to be pleasantly surprised that you guys all collectively know, okay, this is where we need to focus. And it's the faster you can figure that out and see that, I don't want to call it deficiency, but we'll use that term because I can't think of another one. Then you will be able to put the boots on the ground, so to speak, and hit it hard. So I have full confidence that you and your team and the people that work with you and the newly elected officers and so on and so forth will have good ideas. So I wish you luck with that, of course. If there's anything that I can do to help you, and I doubt that there is, you can always call me on that. And so let's fast forward 20 years. I'll be 65. And at that time, what does Steve Walsh think a successful New England energy company looks like in the year 2046?
I think you'll probably see some pretty high-tech hybrid systems. And I think that would come from the Kevin Beckett's, the Carlins, the Roger Marins. I think that, and it will give people the choice of either switching from one fuel that are really simplified. I think you'll see that our fuel will still be needed. It'll still be around. And obviously the higher blends are going to be very inviting.
Yep.
And like I said, the BTU content per gallon is really unmatched.
Yep.
So I think dealers really need to stay progressive and adding to their business things that fit. Like I said, not go way off, but heat pumps, and really look at equipment and home services, add to that. And if you're good at your home services, that's going to sell you fuel.
Yeah, and so you alluded to there, but obviously embracing new technologies both on the manufacturing side and then again at higher blends of renewables. I can't imagine they're going anywhere just because there's such great reasons to do it. So yeah, I mean, a successful energy company in 20 years, if there's still energy companies as we know them in 20 years, that in itself is a success because nobody wants to be driven out of business and, changing delivery trucks into plow trucks. So one thing I wanted to ask you earlier that slipped my mind, and we were talking about the generations. So I'll ask you this before we wrap up. But so you got into the business very, very early, and obviously you've got a family legacy here. So mentorship, people that guided you along the way in your journey in this industry, are there people that stick out in your mind that were mentors to you, either past or present?
So I would have to say that really my sister, who has, she's retired, but yet she works all winter long for the last 3 years.
She does.
She can't stay away, but she really allowed me to have the opportunity to really do what I wanted before I had a chance to acquire her shares. And she did it with it. So I would, I wouldn't be able to do this if she didn't give me the opportunity. So I'd say, yeah, my sister she's special to me.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And then, looking at it now, mentors, I have to, and I'm not saying this, I will go back to the people that really continue to give us the products that we need to stay in business. And I will reiterate, the Energy Kinetics and the Beckett's and the Carlins and you people, Barry. I mean that sincerely. I mean, I know that we're a believer in taking care of our fuel and if you do those things and you really pay attention, that they are the ones that are letting us stay in business and giving us the opportunity to fight back. So that's not one single, the Noras and the clean fuels, that's not one single mentor right at the moment, but I appreciate all those people looking forward, giving us the opportunity. So,
and that's a fantastic answer. There's a personal connection there. I know Dixie, and that's great. There's so many family businesses in this industry and in a lot of industries, and so when you can make that direct connection, between a brother and a sister, especially, which maybe not every day. Oftentimes it's a mother or a parent or a father and a child, but I think it's fantastic that you guys have that relationship and that it's so special to you. And as far as the people that are supporting this industry, I mean, if you go to any conference, especially, if you go to the Eastern Energy Expo, it's 4 days. It's a lot. There's a lot going on. But the trade shows that are in this industry, there's always new stuff. There's so many different companies, everything from software to actual manufactured parts. And things are constantly coming out because this energy is so vitally important to so many people, not only that work in it, but everybody on the block is affected by it. We all have to stay warm. We all have to stay cool. So looking up to the people that are working to support you is a very cool cyclical thing, that's a great answer, Steve. I'll tell you that.
No, but I do. I mean, I really mean that. I don't discount that. I appreciate what is going on with, really every time that the policymakers try to think they've given us a jab to knock us back, collectively the groups that I've mentioned are coming back with some sort of right hook to say, no, not so quick.
We're
still here. So
it is a battle.
Appreciated.
We'll continue to fight, and I'm glad that you're in the position that you're in at Nephi. You've been a really great connection for me over the last decade or so. You're doing the right things. You're moving in the right ways. And I'm genuinely always impressed when I talk to you and I get feedback from you on what you're doing or what new things you might be getting involved with. So kudos to you, Steve. I'm going to put your website on our screen wherever I decide to put it later on this evening, and we'll get people diverted to that website. Obviously, the Nephi thing, they can go to nephi.com. I did today, actually, saw your picture there. And so if people want to reach out to you directly in the Keene area, or people want to reach out to you regarding some way they can maybe help support you, they can do that through your website. And so, Steve, thank you very much for joining me this evening. Thank you for giving your time. Thanks for having a drink with me. And I think if I'm trying to figure out when I will next see you, I won't be at the golf tournament because I'll be away, but I'm thinking sometime in the fall, maybe at a P-Gain event, perhaps.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we'll catch up in Portsmouth in October. Beautiful time of year, beautiful city, right here in good old New Hampshire, in fact. Right. And so until that time, I will let you go. And if you need me, Steve, please, you know where to reach me, day or night, my friend.
And I appreciate all you've done for us, Barry. You give us good service, so thank you.
All right, Steve, I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Barry.
There he goes, Steve Walsh, walking from his office back to his house. No commute. That's a luxury. Good for him. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Jim Collura. Thank you to Steve Walsh. I really appreciate both of those gentlemen getting involved and giving me some time when they really didn't have to. Thank you for giving me time. You really don't have to. I mean, you could be on the couch right now watching this or watching something else. Maybe the World Cup. Maybe home and garden television. I don't know what you're into. We will catch up with you in a couple of weeks. We'll have a brand new guest. We'll have some brand new shtick. And I really look forward to seeing you. So until then, enjoy your weekend. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch up with you soon.